This video is about the difference between living space and storage space. Here's how I think of it. Living space is the space in which you go about the activities of your life. It's the space in which you live. Storage space is the space in which your stuff lives. Here are a couple of examples. Living space, the kitchen countertop on which I cook lunch, dinner, breakfast. The kitchen sink in which I wash the dishes from lunch, dinner, breakfast. I would consider my bed to be living space. I would consider my shower to be living space. Let's flip it the other way. Storage space is the space in which your stuff lives. Some examples of storage space include a bookcase. That's where your books live. A pot rack. That's where your pots live. A bathroom cabinet. That's where your toiletries probably live. Ooh, fun example, your desk. Top of the desk, I consider living space, not storage space. I have set up my countertop as living space most of the way around, and then a little bit storage space over here. Before I got serious about organizing, I did not differentiate at all between living space and storage space. And actually, it's probably safe to say that I considered my home to be storage space that I lived in. And now that I understand more of the concepts of organizing, this seems heartbreaking. And I encourage you to set up your living space for you to live in instead of setting up your living space for your stuff. So I have now reset my kitchen to what's actually a much more conventional setup, at least where I'm from in the world, in the US. And this is kitchen countertop as storage space, actually. So a quick tour. The things that I chose to take out of their normal storage spaces in my home are things that are really common to store on a countertop in a home. So I've got cooking supplies, spatula, oil, some spices, nowhere near as many as a lot of people have. I've got coffee brewing stuff for, well, brewing coffee. I've got cutting boards, pretty standard. I've got the mini oven. I actually don't have a microwave, so I can't do a pretend microwave out on the counter, but this is the closest. And I've got a KitchenAid. And lots of people love to keep the KitchenAid out on the counter because it's heavy. And you think, if it's put away, I'll never use it because it's such a nuisance to get out. Oh, and produce, which is the one thing I actually do keep out anyway. Partially this is because my kitchen is small. But I'm not going to lie, I am a bit overwhelmed and I can't even imagine trying to cook a meal in this setup. This really is a pretty conventional setup though, especially, where I'm from in the States. And the philosophy that gets people here is the idea that you want everything close to hand and easy to access. And while that's very understandable, what tends to happen is something like this. If you look at this space in front of me right now, you know, theoretically, it's great. If I want to cook, my cutting boards are right here. I don't even have to all the way straighten my elbow to reach them, and my knives are right here. And also, if I want to make a cup of coffee, I've got the kettle, I've got the grinder, I've got the filters, I've got the coffee grounds, I've got the brewer, and the Ember mug is charging all at the same time. I'm ready to go. And somehow, I am less interested in making a cup of coffee than I was when there was nothing on the counter at all. And I can tell you right now, I'm really not interested in cleaning up after making that cup of coffee, especially if, God forbid, I spill and it goes into all of this stuff that I am currently storing on my countertop. What's more, even though I've now got my oil and salt and pepper right next to the stove, it doesn't get any closer than this. I'm actually less interested in cooking on the stove, and certainly less interested in cleaning up after, because I know as an experienced cook that some oil is going to splatter, and these are all going to be really sticky by the time that I'm done. Whereas if they were in a storage space like a cabinet, they are protected. It's far easier to wipe down a cabinet if you splatter oil, the outside of a cabinet, than it is to wipe down this entire countertop full of things. Much, much simpler. Versus, I wouldn't want to do it. Just for fun, let's see how long it takes in my home that's set up differentiating between storage space and living space. How long does it take to put away everything that was on the counter? Everything that I would need for cooking, for brewing coffee, for prepping, for dishwashing, for reheating leftovers, or for baking a cake. Here we go. Didn't take very long. And what I'm showing right now of wiping down the counter is something that I get to see most of my in-home clients do. And I hope at some point you'll get to do this if you haven't had the opportunity yet. It's this thing that happens when a countertop clears off that it seems almost natural, and like the most effortless thing you could do is wipe it. And somehow kitchen countertops end up getting wiped so much more once we start treating them as living space instead of storage space. So if, as you've watched this video, you've realized that some of the living spaces in your home or your workplace are actually set up as storage spaces right now, that's really normal, and in my opinion, it's a really big deal that you can now understand that concept. And that is the first step to setting up your living space for living. As you go to implement this in your own life, got a couple thoughts for you. One, we do not need to apply this 100% perfectly 100% of the time. Anytime in organizing we're aiming for absolute perfection, we've probably actually missed the mark about creating an enjoyable life. And thing two, understanding the concept and setting up your home so that concept is in play, these are very, very different things. And I haven't covered the how in this video because it's more than I can possibly cover in one video. if you've got the skills to revamp your home and your workplace so that living space and storage space are clearly delineated, great. Or if you don't, that's actually more normal, and I encourage you to seek out more help, either by watching more videos on this channel to learn more, or reaching out to a local professional organizer. If you live near me, you could reach out to me. If you'd like to share your appreciation of this video, please click like, or better yet, comment what you learned.